A brand new biome has arrived into Minecraft, and that means that your swamps are going to stop looking like this and start looking like this after 1.19 comes out. Which, fun fact, there is a first ever 1.19 beta/preview for Minecraft Bedrock, as well as a 1.19 snapshot, which released today, including this brand new biome. Except it's actually a biome variant. That's right, the Mangrove Swamp. As delightful as it might look, it's actually just a variant of the existing swamp, and so the existing swamp is here to stay, and that makes everything okay. Even though the old biome looks crappy, it does make some people happy, and so I wanted to go through a little bit of a review of everything new, because I'm someone who spends hundreds of hours looking at seeds and generation in Minecraft for the sake of various videos, and so I figured it'd be interesting to look at this new biome and give it a little bit of a rundown. First things first though, please do subscribe, perhaps some notifications turned on if you want to see other Minecraft survival-based videos. Obviously this is covering what's coming in a new update, including a bit of a prediction on a release date, by the way, because they gave a really interesting hint in the changelog in there. But first, let's explain the Mangrove Swamp. So this is, of course, a brand new swamp biome variant, or you can just call it a biome by itself. I mean, honestly, with the way Minecraft works these days, the terms are getting kind of mixed around a little bit. And the most interesting thing about this biome is the fact that it's going to have a brand new tree type, a tree type which isn't quite here for Bedrock yet. So as you can see, even though we've got these roots here, which are not logs, you cannot craft them like they are. If you actually look at the trees themselves are currently made of oak wood. The rare stake wood that everyone loves, the red wood that makes all these beautiful things, is not yet here for Bedrock, which is interesting that they could go through all of the effort of adding this whole biome, but they couldn't actually add the wood yet. Whatever, we'll just pass it for now. Just know there will be a brand new type of wood here. There's also these brand new mangrove woods. There's also these mangrove pustules you'll find around the place. They are used to plant new trees. The mangrove roots, like I said already, and the top layer of the biome is covered in this delightfully interesting kind of looking mud block. This is the mud block right here. It can be used to craft mud bricks and all sorts of other things. And the things that I like most about it are honestly the sounds when you break and place it. You've got to admit, whether you like that sound or not, and a lot of people do fall on the not side of the spectrum, that was a very satisfying sound. And so yeah, as you can see, this is a biome made up of new blocks, and it fits into the wild update because look how wild this place is. Most of you will be coming here to get the new trees, but some of you might appreciate the brand new mud, which can be used for mud bricks, might appreciate the mangrove roots, which can be used for all sorts of wooden-based builds that don't quite fit the normal builds, and also because it's just some different terrain to make the world feel that little bit more alive. And so yeah, before we talk about the bees that can spawn here, before we talk about all the things that happen, let's talk about how the terrain actually looks. Also, that witch appears to be here. The terrain itself, in my opinion, looks really good, but it does have a couple of flaws in its current iteration that I think that probably should be addressed. Actually, first things first, what are the things I like? The things I like is that it feels way more swampy. You could actually ride a boat through here and it would feel like a proper swamp experience, in my opinion, while still having all the hallmarks of what a swamp should have. It's got lily pads, it's got the murky water. This is a Bedrock exclusive, if I'm not mistaken, but it has this murky swamp water where you can barely see because it's a swamp. It's gross. You don't want to be swimming in this water in the real world. And so yeah, it's very immersive and it has that fun feeling that a swamp has. However, it then has a few things that disappoint me. The first of which are the random grass patches you'll find. I mean, it's an interesting color of grass, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it doesn't merge well with the mud in its current state. Maybe there needs to be like maybe this needs to be something that isn't just random splotches. Again, there's probably some biome design that will be done here before the final release. But then also, I feel as though mud shouldn't just be surface deep. As you can see, anywhere you walk around this biome, if you remove some of the mud, there is dirt directly below it. Again, maybe this makes some sense to someone out there. I could maybe see it making some sense there. However, to me, I don't like the mud just being one block deep. It makes the biome feel like a retexture, or like they just replaced the grass with something. If there is mud in the biome, it should be in some places quite deep. So that's my first complaint about this place. Mud just doesn't feel right being only on the very, very surface. And even if it is only on the very, very surface, it's only on the surface where there's land. The moment you go into water, which is hard hard to show because of the very same cloudy water I was just talking about. But the moment we go down a little bit more, as you can see, it's dirt again, which just starts to make the mud feel like an afterthought rather than one of the key parts of the biome itself. So yeah, I think the mud placement is kind of disappointment, and you know, like, right, given that the mud is one of the few blocks that defines the thing, it is important to get that right. Maybe in the real world, the way mud works is it's only a meter deep and never any more, but for the sake of Minecraft and for the sake of people who are going to be collecting this stuff, having 1 block deep means that enough people are going to be running through here, breaking this block, and then the grass is just going to spread back through and it's going to be a weird old swamp. Again, maybe a weird consideration. Maybe we're talking about people who destroy biomes, which is a small category, which specifically includes me, but it's still something worth mentioning. The other thing that's worth mentioning about this is the way the whole place kind of feels, I don't know, it feels like it's lacking some form of unique plant on the ground. And look at like how it cut this desert off from another part of the desert. That's actually incredibly strange, huh? But yeah, I'm just here to kind of show that like, yeah, there's not really enough going on here. There's grass, but grass doesn't feel quite right coming out of the mud. I mean, in my mind, it should be slightly retextured, maybe even more of a different color, or, you know, I don't know what you would do with it, but there's definitely some things they could do to make the grass feel a bit more like it belongs there, as opposed to being an afterthought. And then also the dead bushes, which they spawn somewhat rarely in here. But it feels as though we need something a bit more tailor-made for the swamp. Again, if the wild update is all about wildlife, doing something that isn't a dead bush might be a good idea. Although, again, like maybe it's actually this really good idea. But to me, the dead bush is amazing in places where you cannot get wood. But is it so necessary in places where you can? And pro tip, you might not know this, but in the Mangrove Swamp, you actually can get wood all of the time. Let me let you in on a little secret. Here's what you do. You climb the mangrove roots, or you break them, or you don't even do that. You just break the wood, which will be Mangrove Swamp when the update comes out, and boom, there you go. In fact, since we're getting a little bit you know, lost while trying to since we're showing off an inferior version of the biome right now that has, you know, this looks like cardboard instead of steak. So if I would show you what the steak should really look like. Wait, actually, I wonder, will this tree be in the exact same place? Will the biome be in the same place if we use this exact same seed on Java? Let's find out. The answer is, oh, okay, as you can see, there is in fact a mangrove swamp right here, and as you can see, it's got the correct lovely little rare, I wouldn't say medium rare steak, this is a full-on rare steak right here. So as you can see, this is the Mangrove Swamp, the exact same biome, but added to the Java Edition snapshot of the same update. In case you're curious, although Java snapshots are just labeled as like, this is week 14 in the year 2022, the Bedrock beta is the first one for version 1.19, and we'll come back into why that's such a big deal later, and what that means for everyone, Java or Bedrock players alike. But for now, just kind of know that these biomes are very, very vertical. They almost feel like mini jungles when you look from above, or maybe like mixed with a little bit of roof forest. It's a very fun biome to explore from above if you're a creative player. However, if you are someone who plays a lot of survival, don't be tricked by these kind of vertical visions. Also, this is so much bigger of a biome on Java when compared to Bedrock. Seriously, look at the size of it here. And then for size comparison over here. I mean, it's incredible. I personally am of the preference that the Java size might be slightly better than like a long, thin, narrow biome like this. I mean, what is this? Is this Chile? We don't need to be so long and narrow. We can be a little bit more chubby. You know, we can be chody even if we have to be. But the important thing to also say here is that as well as being kind of like this size and looking like... Also, as you can see, look at this tiny swamp that it's created. I'm so fascinated by this. But also the other thing I'd say is that the tree cover is much better, maybe because I'm looking from above, but I think this is a much more natural looking mangrove swamp as opposed to like whatever this is. It's just so crowded as far as the eye can see. There's even, yeah, I'd say the Java version definitely has the better wood type, but as far as everything else is going, might need some revisions. There is going to be a lot of feedback. There's going to be a lot of changes they make on this. That's why I want to be as clear as possible with my opinions here. That like, yeah, we can't go one block deep. Not only for the fact that like it's kind of ugly if you break the block and like it doesn't feel correct, but also look at this. This is natural generation. It just doesn't look right to have the mud be surrounded by dirt underneath it. It feels incorrect. I also say the tree cover on Java is a bit too high from above. Maybe that's what you want though, because if you were riding a horse above this biome, it would be great. As someone who does a lot of just ignoring biomes by riding horses over them, it's great. However, is that what they're going for? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know their real goals or visions. But what I can say is that, yeah, when there is a clear waterway, this biome looks extra cool. I mean, combine that with the way, oh, they did add the water effect to Java. Oh, but actually it goes away after some time too. Honestly, it looks pretty good here. Love to see the changes they're making to make 1.19 better for both platforms. Speaking of both platforms though, although Bedrock version might have gotten a more refined or less refined, depending on your position, version of the Mangrove Swamp this week, the Java edition did have quite a few exclusives, and I want to talk about them a little bit. The big one though is this, the recovery compass. It looks like kind of like an inverted regular compass, but it's a really cool feature, and let me explain to you why. First things first, obviously it is not a regular compass. The regular compass always points towards a fixed spot in your world that is the same for everyone. That is the spawn location. It doesn't point towards north, although that could be almost as useful a feature. It always points towards the spawn location. Look in my inventory, it's focusing there right now, whereas the recovery compass focuses nowhere, it seems. Well, actually what it's doing is it's pointing towards the place where I last died was. It just so happens that I haven't died yet in this world because it's a creative world. Even though I'm pretending it's survival with my game mode right here, I'm not doing a particularly convincing job. But if I were to die, you're not. Should we show you what happens if I were to die? Oh no, a great injury has befallen me, as so often happens. Well, now as you can see, oh, I gotta get back up there. Anyway, as you can see, my recovery compass is always pointing me towards that place where I died, which conveniently enough will be where all my stuff is being stored and not despawning because it's out of the world render distance, out of the place where it actually can do, which means having one of these when you die, if you're not sure where you die, is going to be potentially really handy. There's a lot of really weird edge cases about this I'd love to talk about and its usefulness, etc. But for now, we just need to mention that the reason this is so cool is because they're adding it by making it craftable with these mystical cucumbers. So these mystical cucumbers, they decided to call them echo shards, are only found in one particular place. You guessed it, the Deep Dark. This is another specific use case for the ancient city. Besides Swift Sneak, it's saying if you want a recovery compass, you know where you gotta go, you've gotta go precisely there. They do stack together, and they won't work if you're not in the correct dimension, or if you, like you saw right there, I haven't died yet. So in hardcore mode, this has literally zero function. They also don't work on the ground because they're not being held by anyone, and so as you can see, I mean, the ground hasn't died yet. I mean, just you wait, ground. I'm gonna show you who's boss, but the ground hasn't died, and so it doesn't know where to point on that particular point, which is just so fascinating to me. But yeah, this is the brand new snapshot that came out for Java, the brand new beta for Bedrock, and like I mentioned, there is a really interesting hint at the release of this update, because we didn't know if this is 1.19, the wild update, is intended to be a year-long update like they've been doing with the aquatic update, with the village and pillage and the Never update, or if it was intended to be kind of a half-year update like they did for Caves and Cliffs Part 1 and 2. Minecraft has always aimed to have 2 updates a year, but given that last year was the first year they really pulled that off in a big way, and that was Part 1 and Part 2, what is happening with 1.19? The answer seems to be maybe this is going to be a half-year update. The reason I think that is because we've moved into 1.19 betas already, which would be weird for an update that's coming out in December, or even as late as like August sort of time, November maybe. It would be ludicrous to be going into 1.19 betas already. They usually stay in the version before for betas till very close to the end. And the other thing that's very interesting is they reference in the changelog, I'll read this out verbatim. Is verbatim the word you use for that? I just want to sound fancy, okay? But I'm going to read this out as it is written right here. They write that you might have guessed it in this week's Bedrock beta, we're heading to the murky marvel that is the Mangrove Swamp biome. Then they reference that they want to hear your thoughts through feedback, but as they're now approaching the final state of some features, you won't have to enable them in the experimental toggle in order to test them out this time. That's right, a lot of these features are not going to be thought of as experimental anymore because they're going to just be finished features. It's going to be the end, finito. There is no more development for these features, and indeed quite a few others. They are at the the last part, the finishing of the start is over, and now the start of the finishing has begun. And indeed, overall, for many features, the opposite of the beginning is happening. And as well as all of that, what you could also say is you could look at the changelog and see that they have a line on there about 1.19 splash texts and 1.19 tutorial tips for the menus and stuff. These are very late phase update features, I would say at least. It could be that, like, oh, there's just features they're finishing now in ready for this update that's coming out way later in the year. But I think that is a sign that, yes, this is a June, July, first half of the year update for Minecraft. Obviously, we've got a lot of steps to go between now and any finished release. Obviously, that just goes without saying. There is a lot that needs to happen here, but I'm excited for the idea that we might just be getting, a 2-update Minecraft year, and that includes many things about the Wild update. However, if that is true, the Birch Forest update we saw of all the new greenery we haven't seen much of yet, that would probably put an end to the idea that the Ancient City Portal will do something in this update. It's likely they're going to plan that for some future update. If this is a half, year one as opposed to a big, major, full year one. But I imagine, for the sake of like Minecraft developer sanity and all the other targets that they said were being, all the other things that they said were important when they split the Caves and Cliffs update into two. Hopefully this results in good things, and hopefully it results in a less buggy, less stressful, more interesting time. Only time will tell what they do with the rest of this snapshot development cycle, but I imagine we're in the, we've gone past the midpoint for the development of this, is what I'm trying to say, and that is a hugely interesting thought to have. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments down below. Again, I'm not gonna make an exact prediction on a release date yet. That is something I would love to do again, we like to compare versus previous snapshots. Once we see a little bit more wording that confirms that, yeah, they're coming closer to the end of adding new features. And yeah, that's something I love to do, analyze the data, etc. Speaking of analyzing data and dates, you might be wondering, when am I next going to be streaming Super Flat Survival? It's a very popular series. A lot of people have been loving watching it. Thank you for the support, by the way. Yeah, I'm going to be doing part 12, which is ludicrous to say, on the flat survival with no structures. It's going to be happening tomorrow, my usual stream day, 8 PM if you want to set a reminder in UK time. And the other thing is I am also working on a big summary video for the last 24 hours of footage that I'm working through. It's taking a lot of time, but I just wanted to let you know it's in progress. And yeah, I want to show people who don't have the time to watch 24 hours of content what it looks like. But if you do have time to watch 24 hours worth of stuff, then really I'd better stop getting in your way with this video. Also, don't worry, there's people there that can help you. Everything's gonna be okay. Speaking of things that are okay, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If it was more than okay, have you considered hitting the like button? Did you know it doesn't even help me out as a YouTuber? It just boosts my ego very slightly. And so you can totally not do it as well. Doesn't even bother me. I mean, I'm asking you, so clearly it does bother me. But you can think more about the psychology of that after the end of this video, because it's been a lovely time, but I'm gonna see you all next time. Next one. Goodbye. Yeah, that was flawed.